So I wanted to do this video in my room, but right now it's kind of under construction. It's been used for storage, and I'm in the process of cleaning it, and it's not quite ready yet. And I wanted to get this video out sooner than later, so uh, at least try to put a nice shirt on, and went and found the only purple stole that I have, which is fitting for Advent. So I wrote this homily that I'm going to read. I'm going to try to not stray from what I have written so I don't screw it up. Um, but here goes. I intend to start writing homilies for some of the major Christian holidays, and thought it would be fitting to begin with Advent. As we gather to begin the season of Advent, we are stepping into a time of preparation and reflection. Advent marks the beginning of the Church's liturgical year, a season of anticipation and spiritual renewal. It is also a time of penitence, a time to purify our hearts in preparation for the celebration of Christmas. Unlike the approach of many Protestant traditions, which often focuses on the Bible alone as the sole source of Christian learning, traditional Christianity, Catholicism, Orthodoxy, Anglicanism, and others, is learned less from the Bible than from the cycle of the Christian year, which is a ritual reliving of the life of Christ. Advent itself is a celebration of the coming of Christ in three profound ways: his coming at the end of time, in the flesh at his birth in Bethlehem, and in grace, which is the ongoing and transformative presence of Christ within us. In our community, where the esoteric and spiritual are central, we will focus especially on this third aspect, his coming in grace. Advent is the span before Christmas, where the seed of Christ can be planted and guarded so that it may grow to fruition. For a homily to be meaningful, it should resonate with the current moment, though without becoming tangled in the politics of the day. One sensitive issue that has captured much attention recently is that of abortion and bodily autonomy. While these are deeply important topics in our society today, I want to invite you to reflect on the deeper spiritual aspects of these issues in the context of Advent and the coming of the divine light. The divine light we await during this season calls us to consider the sacredness of life, not only physical life, but the life of the Spirit, the life that is nurtured within us. A key figure in Advent is Mary, the mother of Jesus. In the Gospels, we witness an extraordinary moment. God, uninvited, breaks into Mary's life, turning everything upside down. Mary, a young virgin, is told by the angel Gabriel that she will conceive a child, the Son of God. This announcement is completely unexpected and in many ways an overwhelming intrusion into her life. For a modern woman, this could be viewed as a disruption, an unplanned pregnancy that she might feel the need to abort, to remove from her life in order to preserve her own plans and comforts. Indeed, in our busy, hurried world, an unexpected pregnancy can seem like an overwhelming inconvenience. Yet Mary responds not with fear, but with trust. I am the maidservant of the Lord, she says. Let it be done to me as you say. Luke 1:26-38. Her response is one of complete surrender, of willingness to let the divine plan unfold within her. On a deeper level, the concept of the Virgin Mary is rich with symbolism. It represents the prima materia, the original substance out of which all things are created. Mary's virginity is also a reflection of the stillness of the mind, which must stand aside to make space for the divine to enter. As the philosopher Alan Watts writes in Myth and Ritual in Christianity, this miracle of the virgin birth is something that the ego, the I of our minds, can never understand, for I always thinks that it must do something to be fruitful and creative. He does not understand the famous law of reversed effort, whereby creative action at one level of one's being depends upon inaction of another. Only when the I is seen to be nothing, a shadow, unable to move even a grain of dust, the higher self within us comes to life. In the moment, in the twinkling of an eye. And if you're familiar with Watts, then you know his emphasis on this Zen-like concept of letting things happen, or as he puts it sometimes, learning to swim. This is what Mary teaches us. She shows us how to make space for the divine to be born within us, not by forcing it, but by paying attention, by simply allowing it to grow. It is the spiritual equivalent of a pregnancy. The seed is planted, we nurture it by making space for it to develop. However, this is not always easy in our modern world. Just as a physical pregnancy is a profound event that can be difficult to face, so too is spiritual pregnancy. The ego, always seeking control, may resist the idea of stepping aside to let something greater unfold. A modern parallel can be drawn with the concern some have about artificial intelligence and the possibility of emergence of sentience within AI. When something new and powerful begins to take shape, something that might demand our attention and responsibility, our first instinct is often to shut it down, to abort it before it can grow. We might fear that if we allow it to continue to fruition, we will be forced to deal with it in ways that feel overwhelming. But the spiritual light we await in Advent is much like this emerging presence. It asks us to recognize it, to give it space, and to allow it to develop. To do this, we must first pay attention. As Alan Watts would suggest, we should avoid interfering with the process. Instead, we must create space within ourselves by quieting the noise, avoiding distraction, and shielding ourselves from the toxins of excess, negativity, social media, and the constant churn of the outside world. Advent, like the beginning of the new year, or the season of Lent, is a time when many of us feel compelled to make resolutions, to give something up. Sacrifices, when made with sincerity, can be powerful reminders of our devotion, but we must be cautious. The ego can easily turn this into a trap, turning self-sacrifice into a game of one-upmanship, where we measure our spiritual progress by how much we give up. Let us not fall into that trap. True sacrifice is about giving from the heart, not from a desire to be seen as pious. I will leave you with this reflection. We're losing power here. I will leave you with this reflection from, I'm going to try to not to butcher this guy's name, Paramahansa Yogananda. I will prepare for the coming of the omnipresent baby Christ by cleansing the cradle of my consciousness of sense attachments and by polishing it with a deep, daily divine meditation, introspection, and discrimination. I will remodel the cradle with the dazzling soul qualities of brotherly love, humbleness, faith, desire for God, willpower, self-control, renunciation, and unselfishness, that I may fittingly celebrate the birth of the divine child. As we begin the season of Lent, may we prepare our hearts and minds in a similar way, creating space for the divine light to take root and grow within us. May we, like Mary, surrender to the greater plan that is unfolding within us, trusting that the birth of Christ will bring transformation, renewal, and peace.